Yes, she was actually referred to me by another accountant, and he already knew of my reputation in this area, so it was word of mouth. And he contacted me to say, we have a client, and initially she was issued a VAT notice of security, but then they took her all the way to court, prosecuted her, and now she has a criminal record as a result. But the impact on her is huge because she needed a license to trade. Um, and the criminal penalty and fine, uh, well, mainly really the criminal record more than anything else, would impact on her license to trade. So that would mean she couldn't continue to trade, her company wouldn't be able to continue to trade, and she would not be able to make a living personally as well, because the company, the license to trade was actually had to be issued in her main name, in her personal name. So it had a huge impact on her, and her company had over £1 million turnover at that time. So they were doing successfully. They were pretty successful. They had some issues which led to this whole situation, in that her main client was a multinational client, and they were actually underpaying her by roughly 140 to £200,000. And because of this, it impacted on her cash flow. So she couldn't pay HMRC as a result because it impacted on the cash flow heavily. She had been in continuous dialogue with HMRC. She explained the situation. She was explained that she was taking this client to court as well. Once she would get her money back, she would be able to pay HMRC fully. But in the meantime, she had actually implemented an installment plan. So she was doing all the right things. She was doing her best in order to engage with HMRC continuously and also pay her debt. There was absolutely no intention of hers to not pay the debt. And the motive was to keep the company going because she had employees. So people were depending on the company for their livelihood as well. So this is the situation she was in when she came to me. I then said to her, has a natural appeal been put in? And she said, what appeal? So she was not aware of the appeal process at all. And then it transpired she hadn't actually been notified of her appeal process. So all throughout this whole process, apart from maybe the initial letter that was sent out to her, which would have her rights to appeal in there, no one actually spoke to her about the appeal process. So she also had a solicitor representing her case, and they had just notified HMRC of her inability to pay, which is not an appeal. So we did have professional representation, but they had not submitted an appeal as they should have. And that's why I think it's important. You need to have people who has the right knowledge and the right expertise to deal with HMRC, because then you have situations like this when the proper process has not been followed. Unfortunately, when she got to the court hearing, a couple of days before, her father had passed away. So she wasn't able to attend it. And while she was out there as well, when she attended the funeral, another close family member had passed away as well. So on top of all of this, what was happening with the company, she also was heavily impacted personally by deaths in her family. So she really did have a lot on. And the main issue was that no appeal had been put in by that time, and she was in a state. She was just unable to deal with anything at that point. And I explained that to HMRC, and I explained that to the tribunal. So after about 6 months, she returned to UK, and we managed to then get the ball rolling on everything again. So we have a situation here where she can't continue to trade, because if you continue to trade when a notice of security has been issued by HMRC, then you're illegally trading, which is why she was taken to court. So what is a notice of security? A notice of security is when HMRC issues a notice saying we need you to put a deposit against your future VAT or VAT liabilities. So because we've noticed for whatever reason there's poor compliance, you haven't been paying your VAT. It could be in situations where they can see one company has been closed down and another company has been opened up, and they can see same people are running it. So in order to ensure that the VAT liabilities are paid, they ask for a deposit up front. And that's what was done in her case. But obviously she couldn't pay. If she's having difficulties paying the actual VAT liability, then to put a deposit up front was even more difficult in her case. So we had a situation where she didn't know about her rights to appeal. Again, we have a situation where roughly about 2 years later on, we had to submit we had to apply for permission to appeal, not even the main substantive appeal. And eventually, I think this year, in February 2021, in March, we had the hearing in February 2021, and in just recently, I think it was in April 2021, we were given permission to make a valid appeal. Now, why is that important? It's important because this was the notice of security that she was actually taken to court and prosecuted against. So if this whole process, if this appeal, if we're given the appeal, permission to make an appeal, then we have a situation where we can have the notice of security quashed, which means it's invalid. It no longer exists. So the whole reason why she was prosecuted in court by HMRC will no longer be there. So it all has a knock-on effect as a result. So this increases the possibility for the criminal record. The whole point, the basis of the criminal record just falls apart afterwards. So it wasn't even the money here that was the factor. The issue here was the criminal record, her reputation, and her ability to continue to trade. That was the issue. And thankfully, we're like one step further, I think, now to resolving all of that. It's actually quite a messy case, that one. But we're unpicking it. So it's been unpicked, and at least we have a greater chance now than where she was when she first came to me, which was, none at that point.